Facebook. Good evening. You're here in the room with Ernie Boxall and myself, Faye Kankowski, for a very, very, very special edition of Circle Time. It's only the third one and we're getting celebrity guests already. Can you believe it? Unbelievable. So it's not quite 7 o'clock yet. So I'm going to do my usual thing and just chat shit for a minute or two. So this week has been pretty much all about the storms. A lot of snow. How has it been down your end, Ernie? I think it's all gone now, hasn't it, the snow?
It's all gone. Yeah, they're just outside my window. There's about a 5'8" snowman who's just melting away now. Everything else is gone.
Losing his facial features one by one.
A bit like that. Yeah.
It's like The Exorcist, isn't it, when you walk around and look at the snowmen these days.
They go.
Well, I mean, I'm up on top of a hill in Stanley, as a lot of you might know, and that is like, it's by the side of every road. We've got like sort of 6-foot walls of snow, which are now getting like a lip under them from all of the cars driving past. So it's going to be carnage. Iceland today was fully closed off because the glass roof has caved in with the snow. So yeah, I don't think the country's ever going to get back to normal. I really don't. I think that's it now.
Can I jump in there?
Of course.
About 50 years ago, I met a girl down in the Midlands and we spent a weekend together, and then she said she'd got to go back home to Stanley.
Okay.
So I decided one Friday to hitchhike up to Stanley to surprise her. So I got onto the motorway and started to thumb a lift, and I got 3 lifts to Manchester. And when I got to Manchester, I thought, I've cracked it. I'm not very far away now. And then I opened the map up, and it's the same to go again, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, if not more, to be honest.
Yeah. But anyway, I got to Stanley and I knocked on the door, and her mother opened the door, and I just said, I've come to talk to Lorraine. And I was invited in for the weekend, and we went to walk around Stanley, and it's the only place I've ever been to where everywhere's up.
Yes, it doesn't matter which way you go. Yeah.
You walk up a hill, and then you turn around the corner, and you walk up a hill to get back home.
It's true. I've got calf muscles, like big ones now. So I've only been here 2 months.
I will never forget Stanley.
It's a great place. So hello to everybody who's watching and who's joined us. The sort of schedule for this evening is I'm going to tell my usual Circle Time story, a quick one. It's a great one tonight, so stay tuned, please. Then I'm going to hand over the floor to Ernie Boxall, who is the founder of Ernie Said, which is the speaking academy for inspired dialogue. So Ernie teaches people how to speak publicly. He's got loads and loads of amazing knowledge to pass on. So please stay tuned for that. If you want to skip my story and you're watching this on record, then just fast forward by about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and that should have you in just about the right place. And I think, Ernie, you're also going to tell a story at the end. Is that right?
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, great. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to jump straight in because we've got a lot to squeeze in, and I know you're all busy people, so I'm going to get on with it. First of all, just a question to the audience: has anybody read "Ask and It Is Given" by Esther and Jerry Hicks? If so, just comment yes below. Basically, in 1984, Esther and Jerry were just your average happy middle-aged couple. They were enjoying life. They got on well. They never had an argument, which is amazing. There were 2 people who just fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. They supported each other, and the only complaint that Esther had was that sometimes when they were meeting with friends or meeting new people, Jerry would go on and on about his times using a Ouija board in the past. Now, Esther was a Christian woman, and she'd spent a lot of time in Sunday schools where she's pretty sure that one of the teachers there had convinced her that the devil was in everything, was very bad. Now, this was obviously a teacher who was very, very scared of the devil and passed this on to her. She was quite sure that this wasn't just something that she'd formulated in her own head. Excuse you there, Ernie. So, as I say, Esther and Jerry, your perfect couple. Now, they'd been discussing with friends about this lady called Sheila, who was not your average spiritualist. Now, a couple of people had been to visit her and they'd had fantastic experiences. And Jerry said that he couldn't wait. He had a list of questions that he'd been formulating since he was like a little boy that he wanted to ask this woman. So he convinced Esther to come along with him, and they booked an appointment for the next week. So they went up to Sheila's house, and a couple of people took them around to the house, and they explained that Sheila was going to lie here on the bed, and there was a few chairs positioned around her, and where they would sit for the duration of the session. So they met Sheila, and they said that she was going to go through a relaxation process to release her unconscious mind. And so as Esther relaxed and did some deep breathing, a different voice came out of her, who the people had said would be Theo. And here's something that is in the non-physical world that comes to the forefront through Sheila herself. So the session went on, and this lady was Theo, through Sheila, the lady, was just answering Jerry's questions in amazing ways that nobody on earth could ever, like a wisdom, an unjudgmental wisdom that nobody on earth can achieve. And Esther was just changed. Her fear left, and she was left in a state of love and peace by the end of the session. And in fact, at the end, she was pretty disappointed that she hadn't asked any questions herself. Now, Jerry was just in awe and amazement, and they both decided that they were going to book another session for the next week. So when they went back to see Sheila the next week, Esther took to the floor halfway through. Jerry decided finally that he'd give up asking the questions and he'd let his wife take over for a little while. So Esther asked several of her questions, and she was just left even more amazed and glorified than she was the week before. She finished the session, and Theo asked if she wanted to know the name of the spiritual guide. Now, Esther wasn't sure what to say here. Like, did it matter? Was it something that actually mattered? And she thought, yeah, she said, okay, I'll know. And Theo told her that she would be told through a clairaudient experience. Now, Esther was like, what on earth does that even mean? Like, I have no idea. But she went away to research it. Now, she'd been asking Theo what the best things would be to do to be able to achieve her goals. Now, Theo had answered meditation and affirmation. Now, again, she said, well, what do you mean by meditation? And he put it out plainly for her. Just sit in a room, a quiet room, breathe. And if you stray from your thoughts about breathing, just come back to them. And you've got to practice this a lot. And Esther researched more about it, and she was going to do that. So they went away, and years passed, weeks passed. And Jerry and Esther practiced meditation together several times a day, just for 15 minutes or something like that. And every time it was giving her this feeling of absolute joy and abundance. But she was still waiting for this clairaudient experience. Now, it was Thanksgiving in 1985. Over a year had passed. And Esther was just sitting meditating. And her head began to rock from side to side. And she realised that it was quite rhythmic, and that in fact her nose was spelling out letters. She shouted for Jerry, she shouted for him, and she said, bring a notepad and pen, quick, and write down the letters that I'm going to tell you. And he did so. And the message spelled out, I am Abraham. Now, Esther had been asking in her head, like, who is my spiritual guide? Who is my spiritual guide? Singular. So Abraham had given her an answer in single terms. But as they got to know each other more and began to talk more and more whilst she was meditating, she discovered that actually Abraham isn't just one person, but Abraham is a collective consciousness of people who will guide you towards the things you desire. Now, not in terms of future telling or being able to change what's going to happen, but they help you to discover your deepest desires and help you to move towards them. So I'd seriously recommend all of you grabbing this book, Asking It Is Given. Like, it is amazing. I'm about halfway through now. That's the little introduction story that Esther's written. It's a perfect way to, I mean, I can imagine I've sold it to you now. I really can with the start there. So let it guide you, you know, open your mind to the law of attraction. And I think that like the will just becomes your oyster. That's definitely the mood that I've been in with it today. The will, we can do anything. So we keep researching and find something that's going to work for you. And I'd really, 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 really recommend that book. I have an archive copy, so I don't know if someone's like stolen it from a library a little while ago or something like that, but I got it off Amazon. It was not me, I swear. So I'm going to hand the floor over now to Ernie Boxall. Now, I've given him a little introduction already. As I say, Ernie is a speaking coach. He has his own academy for inspired dialogue. So, Ernie, please, without further ado, thanks very much for all of the value you're going to bring with tonight.
Beautiful, beautiful. And welcome to everyone that's on at the moment. It's the beauty of social media and of speaking, because I'm not even sure how I met Faye. I think it was through storytelling on a Facebook page. I also own a company called Storytelling Corner, which meets in Leamington Spa one evening a month, where we invite people simply to tell and to listen to stories. So when I first got to know Faye and listened to her stories, it was like, this is someone I have got to get in touch with. And that's the power of what I'm going to talk about, which is the confidence to stand in front of a live audience or to face a camera and to be comfortable about telling a story, because we all have a story. And what makes some people different is just their ability to tell that story well. Everyone has a story. A few people can tell stories well. And that was how I got in touch with Faye. But if I can start at the beginning, I had a business in personal training and in shiatsu massage. So when I first started going along to network meetings in 2002, it was difficult for me to get people to understand that shiatsu massage is a way of relaxing people, because it's a way of touching people. And they didn't know, like, or trust me. So I started to wonder about presentations and about the way I came over to people at the network meetings. Now, as I say, that was in 2002. Over the years, I've spent thousands of pounds on networking, on courses, on conferences, on subscriptions. And I have become known as someone who can give a 40-second, 60-second, 45-minute or full-day presentation. But it wasn't always like that. When I was growing up, we weren't allowed to talk at the table. This is mid-1950s. We weren't allowed to talk at the table. I couldn't talk after dinner because my dad had just come home from a 14-hour shift in the foundry. I couldn't talk at night because I shared the bedroom with my brother. I was always being told to shut up at school. In the factory, nobody could hear me. So really, it wasn't until I was about 21 that I started to get a voice and started to talk about my story. And the first time I did that was when I was asked to be best man at a hooker's wedding. A big New Zealand rugby player. And his bride, her father was the chairman. I'm glad I got a laugh at that. Thanks, Faye. The father of the bride was chairman of a chamber of commerce. So my first presentation was to 80 of Nuneaton's top businessmen and their partners in a marquee with chandeliers and cut glasses, cutlery and so forth, silver cutlery. So I did what I'm trying to do to mentor people to do now. I did it naturally. I started to prepare the best man speech. And I started to prepare it some months before the day. And that gave me time to edit the presentation and then to rewrite it, to go through it again, to edit it again and rewrite it, to make sure that all the words were the words that were needed. And then I practiced. I practiced like hell. I practiced so that I got it down so fine that there were just bullet points. And then came the day. I got the groom to the church on time. Job done. I got all of the guests on the right side of the church. After the ceremony, I got the cameraman away just in time to get everybody to the reception. And then came that moment, the best man's speech. I stood up in front of 140 people and I nailed it. I got it right. And suddenly, yay! It came to me that this was something I could do. I could speak. From that time, I started to run circuit training classes. And from there, I went on to become a semi-professional football coach. Now, if you think about that, I was just a bare amateur player. But I had the ability to get professional and semi-professional footballers to do what I wanted them to do in terms of fitness. From there, I went on to be a supply teacher with no teacher training at all. Because the teacher said to me that I could get 20 minutes work out of pupils that spent the whole lesson with normal teachers just playing up. It was simply this ability to talk to people. Now, was I nervous? Am I anxious? Am I anxious now? There are butterflies in the stomach because I am talking to an audience, but it's manageable. And it means that I can communicate with people on all levels, from management down where I live in Leamington Spa to the homeless people on the street. But the story Faye told reminded me of a story that happened to me. And I think this is the beauty of being an old man, is that so much has happened to me that I've got a story for anything. So if you don't mind, I can tell that story. When I was 16, in the last year at school, we were asked if we wanted pen friends. And we all said yes. Most of the class plumbed for European pen friends, but I'd always had a fascination for America. So I wrote a letter to America. And 2 weeks later, this airmail letter arrived through the letterbox, plopped down onto the carpet. I picked it up, opened it, and it was a wonderfully neat, intelligent letter written from a young girl in Minnesota. So I replied, and 2 weeks later, a second letter came through the letterbox. I opened the letter, and there was the picture of the most beautiful girl I had ever seen in all my life. And from that moment, we started to write fortnightly. Have you ever been in love? Faye, have you ever been in love?
Yes.
Have you ever been in love over 4,000 miles?
No.
It works because you never argue.
So it must be awful. Terribly
we
hard.
wrote these love letters over 4,000 miles for 3 years. And then I decided in 1968 to go and visit her. So I landed in Minneapolis, St. Paul in Minnesota, and there she was with her parents. Now, we were quite shy to start with. I mean, we were 18 and 17, and her parents were there. So they drove me back to their house. I put my suitcases away and they gave us some tea. And then we went down, Linda and myself, to the local school ground. And we sat on a roundabout. And we talked for 3 or 4 minutes. And then we talked and we turned to each other and we kissed. And I kissed her very strongly and she pulled away. And something had gone wrong. And from that moment on, we were just polite. And over the 3 weeks, it was a gap between us. And on the last day, I left the airport. We said goodbye, pretty well understanding that we would never meet again. Now, when I got back to England, Stratford-upon-Avon had a fair where they closed the road off. And after 3 or 4 pints, there was a gypsy caravan there with Tell Your Future. I climbed the stairs and I went into this caravan. It was dark, but there was a lady behind the table with a crystal ball. And she said, cross my palm with silver. I did that. And she said, make a wish. I closed my eyes and I wished that I could see Linda again sometime. Opened my eyes and the gypsy said, your wish was for something over the sea and it will come true. I walked out and thought, well, that's a load of rubbish. I tried twice to try and contact her with no success. Anyway, life went on. Let's fast forward to 2002 when I'm on the internet and the American election comes up. And I add 4 lines about my views on the American election and then forget about it. 3 months later, I go back onto the site. The American election's there. I look at my 4 lines and I just glance underneath. I was your pen friend 36 years ago. It was Linda again. And we started to communicate through Messenger, the beauty of social media. And she told me that she had pulled away because she was being abused by her father from the age of 12. And I had come on too strong. She couldn't handle it. And so from that moment on, we started to communicate regularly. And then I told her about an injury I got to my right leg. And she said, well, I may be able to help. At 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, I want you to go to your treatment room. And this was in Meriden in the Midlands. Call me. And then set an alarm for 30 minutes. And then call me again at 7:30. Just close your eyes and let it be. So at 7 o'clock, I called her and she told me to close my eyes and I did. I'd set the alarm and for 30 minutes I kept my eyes closed and then I rang her back and she said, did anything happen? And I said, well, I actually saw what I thought was a wolf jump into my body, the image of a wolf. And she said, well, I've christened you Coyote because you have come back. Coyotes always come back. She said, was there anything else? I said, yes, I saw turquoise, but it wasn't a strip. It was in broken. She says, I wear turquoise jewellery. Was there anything else? And I thought, I can't tell her this. But I said, I thought I heard breathing. She said, that's what I want to know. I was breathing into a Native American pipe and I'm sending healing to you. And from there, she told me that to heal my leg, I would have to go over some water, suspend myself over water and circle the leg 500 times. And fortunately, over the way from us, there was a lake with 2 trees. How she knew that, I don't know. So I could hold between the two trees and circle my leg 500 times. I went back to the hospital and the leg, the muscle, the thigh muscle had started to grow again. That's a true story.
Amazing.
And it's the power of being able to tell the story. Now, would people believe it's true? The beauty of being a storyteller is that you can tell a story. And sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. But you have to try and be ethical enough to let people know the difference. And so if we get back to business and to networking, if you've got a business and you go to a network meeting, have you been to one yet, Faye?
In the past, but not recently.
Yeah. Does this sound like something you've done? 5:30 in the morning, you've got up. It's dark. It's cold. You've gone outside and you've scraped ice off the windscreen. And you've driven to a network meeting. You've walked in and smiled at the person taking your money. You've gone to the coffee table and you've talked to complete strangers. And then you've sat down and someone has said, okay, it's time for your 60-second presentations. Who will go first? And you've seen people look down. Please don't pick me. I don't want to be first. Please don't pick me. What an opportunity this is. 30, 40 people in the room. And you could be the first one to make an impression. But then I've seen people also walk out to the spot where they have to present. And this is mainly men. And they've turned round and they've put their hands in their pockets or behind their back, or they've started to rub them again. These are magic weapons. I can take your business from where it is now to where it wants to be in 5 years' time. Or I can put my hands in my pockets and say, I can take your business from where it is now to where it is in 5 years' time. It doesn't have the same impact. And then you get people stand up and they've decided to wing their presentation. So they turn and face the audience and they say, good morning, I'm Ernie Boxall from Ernie Said, and I work in Coventry, Leamington and Kenilworth. I work with computer firms where everybody sits for 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes with You get all those verbal crutches that come out because they're trying to think now of something that should have been prepared. And that's where I talk about my program, which is the 4 Ps. If people want to get a pen and paper and write something down or come back to this, okay, follow Faye.
It's right here.
The first P, preparation. Prepare your pitch. If it's 60 seconds, that may be around 120 words. Do it 2 to 3 days, 4 to 5 days before the network meeting. Prepare it, then edit it. Go back. Is that word necessary? Is that sentence necessary? If it's not, rewrite it. Get that preparation down so that all of the words are necessary.
Excuse me.
Thank you. The second P is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice it so well that you can remember it from bullet points. And then practice it so well that you don't need the bullet points. You practice it so well that if you get to the meeting and the leader of the meeting says, unfortunately, there's so many people in the group, we'll have to cut it down to 40 seconds. You know what to leave out, and it's seamless. The alternative is that you try to say everything inside the 60 seconds that you're Ernie Boxall from Ernie Said, and you work in Coventry, Leamington and Kenilworth. You work with offices where people work around the year. People are not going to take any notice. The second option is to talk slowly, talk all the way through so that the adjudicator is telling you to cut off, to leave the stage, and that's unprofessional. The other thing that learning it can do, and this is one of the big things that people can learn, is you go to the meeting and the leader says, unfortunately, the main speaker hasn't turned up. We're going to have to miss that section out. You can put your hand up and say, I'll do it. How much kudos would that get you with the rest of the group, particularly if it's your first time? I'll do a 10-minute presentation. And then you do it. I did that once at an FSB, Federation of Small Business meeting that I went to for the first time. And I got 2 members to come to my workshop just by putting my hand up and saying, I will do the 10-minute facilitation. That's the power of practice. The third P is posture. When you walk to the front, you are the authority. Stand tall. Stand for a moment. Look around the audience. Make sure you make some eye contact with the room. That way, you know if anybody's not listening. You also know if you've got your back to anyone. Because I can guarantee that if you are talking and you have your back to someone, they will switch off. And they could be the person that could help you in business. So make sure that you are in front of the whole audience. Stand tall, hands ready to emphasize the point, to work with the whole audience, to bring them into the work that you're trying to do, because these are magic weapons. And the fourth P is performance. And this is where it comes in. Can you speak for 40 seconds, 60 seconds? Can you speak for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes without saying so, and all those verbal crutches? That's a skill, but it's a skill that can be learned. And one of the things that will help that is by remembering the pauses. When you pause, people will take note. But when people don't pause and they go on to the next sentence, they start to say, It's the pause and the breath that gets over that wanting to use the verbal crutches. Pauses are vital. And if you're doing a 40-second presentation or a 60-second presentation, it cuts down the number of words that you've got to remember. So when you prepare it, write the script out, put in pause here, and practice the pauses. Don't be afraid of them. The people in the audience will be more afraid of the pauses than you are. You know they're coming. They don't. So they are the 4 Ps of network presentations. And they're all under my umbrella of turn up, stand up, speak up. When you turn up to a network meeting, turn up with a purpose. Don't just go to a network meeting. Is the purpose to talk to someone? Is the purpose to advertise a workshop that you've got? Is the purpose to just get to know people? When you stand up to make an impact. Stand tall, be the authority. And when you speak up, speak to the whole audience. So many people speak to the front row, and they start to tell the front row that they're Ernie Boxall and that they work for Ernie Said and they work in Coventry, Leamington. Eventually, you can't even hear the words that they're saying. If anybody does that, the people at the back will have switched off. And you will have missed an opportunity to talk to some, maybe they're a very important businessman, but they've got tinnitus, or businesswoman, and they've got a hearing problem. They will miss whatever it is you're saying because you haven't spoken up. And that's pretty much, Faye, what I teach at the workshops. It's what I teach my clients and customers. It's how to become more comfortable and more confident and more inspiring when they stand up in front of a live audience. But more importantly now, I think as we've spoken about, in front of a camera, video is the way forward. If you can make video and then you can post video and it's good video, you will start to make inroads into marketing and into advertising and into getting your business known to a wider audience. Those are the tips that I pass on. Now, to finish my story, I went over to America in 2007 and I stayed with the family again. Linda is married with a family, but they allowed me to stay in Minnesota for 3 weeks in their basement. And I fell in love with St. Paul in Minnesota. And I'd been there in 1968, and it was as if my soul belonged to Minnesota. It's as if that's the place I'm meant to die. So I tell everyone that I want to die in Minnesota. It's not yet. And they tell me that if you come to Minnesota, it will probably happen because temperatures hit -30. So unless I've got somewhere to live, I will get my wish. Now, unfortunately, I went back in 2016 and I still stayed with the family and I loved every moment, every day in America. But it was just that America had become a little bit angry, the whole of America. So I'm hoping that they managed to sort it out. I'm hoping that one day I can speak on American stage, on American radio, on American television. And the one way I can do that is by connecting to people like Faye, like yourself, and getting known on various platforms, inviting you down to the Midlands to speak on my stage and to work with each other. I hope that we've entertained the people.
I think so.
I hope that's enough. If you've got another story or if you've got anything else, before you do that, if I can say to the people, if you'd like to know more about Ernie Said, go on to my website, which is www.erniesaid.info, and perhaps we can put this in the comment column below.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Email me at erniesaid.info, and I'd love to hear from some of you. Back to you, Faye.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that was great. I've picked up a lot of very, very, very valuable information there. As a Geordie who can speak at 1,000 miles an hour, like, believe it or not, I'm not even speaking close to my fastest.
I can imagine.
I'm going to get myself for one of those jobs as a terms and conditions person on the TV adverts. Yes. I think I could make a killing. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that's my real speaking goal, and I think because I can really, really go fast if I want to tell you.
Yeah, do it.
I can remember when I was about 15, I did a presentation at Ford Castle near Berwick, and I was kind of reading off a paper, which made it worse. And you can't, there's a video recording and you can't even understand a word I said. Like, not one word. Really bad. So,
the death
I know what I'm going to work on before next week.
Well, the death of network presentations is reading from a script. Yeah, you see people either read from paper or read from a phone.
Mm-hmm.
Their tone doesn't change.
Yeah.
They make no eye contact. It is the death of network presentations.
Yeah. I mean, it just shows the lack of preparation, doesn't it? The lack of P.
That's it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe we'll leave everyone to the Monday nights, shall we?
Wonderful.
Yeah. I'll give you a call in a minute, Ernie. We'll have a chat.
Okay, you do that, Faye.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Until next week, guys. See ya. Slight delay, isn't it?